This is the big one. Our last opportunity to make league-winning moves before our league's trade deadline. And we're going out with a bang. 30 different trades to make before week 12 of fantasy football. And this is going to be perfect if your team's already set up for the playoffs, because we'll have trades specifically for you, but also works well if you're trying to make playoffs, because we got trades specifically for you as well. And as we get to our first player, the first player you have to trade for, Emeka Egbuka, make sure you hit that like and subscribe, because not only will I be here today and through the rest of this season to help you win a championship, I'm also going to be posting all offseason as well with draft content, best rookies, draft rankings, getting you ready for next season. Let's talk Emeka Egbuka. This is our opportunity to buy somewhat low. We know the Bills have been pretty awesome against wide receivers. You see number 10 in the entire league. They've been great against quarterbacks as well. We saw Sean Tucker of the Buccaneers do an amazing job scoring all those touchdowns, which doesn't leave a lot of points for and really anybody else for the team. And I'll note in the snap share, absolutely incredible. We see 94%. The targets, he had 9 targets. Everything looked great. The volume was amazing. The opportunity was amazing. He just so happened to face a tough team. And as we look at the playoff schedule, pretty good. We got the Rams, we got the Cardinals, we got the Saints up to the playoffs, then the Falcons. What's not so great with the Panthers and Miami, but he individually will have good matchups against those teams. Minka Fitzpatrick for the Dolphins, not that great at coverage. Individual matchup for the Panthers, not too bad either. We've seen players like Drake London this week have an amazing week. Emeka Egbuka, I'm trying to buy low, especially if the manager's panicking a little bit, just because he wasn't that good before the bye, but keep in mind he was dealing with that hamstring injury. Send an offer immediately, try to get Emeka Egbuka for a championship run. Now, most of the players on today's video will be trade for targets that apply to everybody, but we also have a few tradeaways that I find important as well, and the first of those is A.J. Brown. The main thing I want to highlight is I do think you can get some decent trade value for him. After this week, you look at the schedule, absolutely insane. Dallas, Chicago, he plays the Raiders, the Commanders, and then Buffalo, which we just saw for Egbuka. Pretty tough matchup in the championships. That's one reason I want to trade him away. We also see he had 11 targets in this game. That is amazing. That's another reason you could get some decent trade value. But look at his rankings throughout the season. That's going to be column 2 here in the Walter Picks app. We see number 4 in week 3. We saw 19 in week 4. But most of the time, he's been outside the top 40. He just isn't consistent enough for us to trust him in the fantasy playoffs, even with this easy schedule. I'm looking for someone that needs to take a little bit of risk and try to trade him away as soon as possible. But I do want to trade for his teammate Saquon Barkley, because he's someone you can buy low right now with this struggle. He almost had a touchdown in this game that was reversed. It ended up being a tush push. And he lost 6 points right there. So 16 points here, you would not be able to buy low, but with the 10 points, you absolutely can. And we look at the rest of the schedule, like we saw with A.J. Brown, very easy. It's even easier for the running back. If your team is in need, I think he's worth taking the risk to try to trade for him immediately. The player I am trying to trade away is McMillan. We look at his performance this week against the Falcons, absolutely amazing. 33 fantasy points, wide receiver 2 on the week. But when we look at the schedule, we do see as a bye, week 14. So if you're one of those teams pushing for playoffs, that's going to hurt you a little bit. In the playoffs, week 17, they play the Seahawks. You think Bryce Young can help you get enough fantasy points in your fantasy football championship from McMillan? I personally don't want to set my season on Bryce Young's shoulders against the Seahawks, who just did an amazing job against the Rams offense this week. So McMillan, for me, I'm looking to sell high, see what you can get for him, look for a more consistent option on a more consistent offense. Now, he's going to be hard to trade for, but I am sending offers for Puka Nacua. He just had really his worst week of the season that didn't involve an injury in week 11 against the Seahawks. He had 14 points in this game, and we see his schedule rest of the season. I don't really mind it too much. He does play Seattle in week 16. Maybe that's another 14-point game, but this is your one opportunity to buy low on Puka Nacua. And by buy low, I'm sending like a Bijan. I'm sending a Drake London, especially with the injuries that he's having. I may send a CeeDee Lamb. I may send a Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, I'm sending top-tier players, but players that last week you would have no chance of getting Puka Nacua. This week, after this tougher performance, you may be able to make some sort of trade happen. So I'm buying high, but it's really our opportunity to also buy low at the same time, coming off a little bit of a weaker performance against the Seahawks. Now, this one's for my teams already locked in the playoffs. Sam LaPorta. He's on IR. He started in week 11 against the Eagles. So week 12, 13, and 14, he has to miss being on IR. But then week 15 and 16, 17, he can come back and potentially play. Keep in mind, he may not come back. They did put him on IR for a reason. It's not a guarantee he comes back, but if you can buy him at an extreme discount, I absolutely would. Not only do we have extremely easy matchups in the playoffs against the Rams, weak against tight ends. The Steelers, oh my gosh, are extremely weak against tight ends. and then the Vikings, who have been extremely weak against tight ends as well. Sam LaPorta is a great, extremely buy low because he's on IR, because the team that has him, if they're not locked in the playoffs, they cannot afford to have him on their roster. And if you're in playoffs, you get him cheap, maybe lock him in to help you win a championship. This is another good one for those of you who have already made playoffs, because Ricky Pearsall, looking at the rest of his regular season schedule, against the Panthers, tough matchup, the Browns, tough matchup, then a bye. Maybe not the most helpful for the regular season, but in the playoffs, it's one of the easiest. We face Tennessee, we face the Colts, we face Chicago. If the person that has Ricky Pearsall is not yet locked into a playoff spot, which they may not be because they've been missing one of their kind of sleeper picks for the entire season, try to get him on the cheap right now. Not only did he come off a bad week, but he's going to be getting better. You guys know that. He's going to be getting better as he comes back from this injury. He's going to get more involved. Look how good he was at the start of the season. 15 points, 9 points, 19 points. This is the type of player that can produce some huge weeks. And with these easy matchups in the playoffs, he's definitely someone I want for my team. But a player I'm trying to trade away, especially if I'm still trying to make playoffs, is Deebo Samuel. This week they head to the bye, and then the schedule is brutal. They face Denver, Minnesota. They play the Eagles in the fantasy football playoffs. This is one of the toughest possible schedules, and now is the time to sell high after this game against Miami. But if you guys are following and subscribe to this channel, you will know that he didn't have that hard of a matchup against the Dolphins. He was actually covered by Minkah Fitzpatrick, one of the easiest possible matchups. We see that every single week. He had a decent matchup in week 11. He was great, but the matchups are so difficult, I don't think we can really trust him. If we're trying to make playoffs, we definitely need someone with a little bit easier schedule that does not have a bye coming up. And maybe it's not another wide receiver, but I think Aaron Jones could be the target for you, because look at this schedule. He plays Green Bay, not the easiest matchup. Seattle, not the easiest matchup, but then Washington, Dallas, the Giants. So maybe you don't want to start him in the fantasy championship against Detroit, but up to that point, he will be a solid start. And we see the receptions, 3 and 3 the last couple games. We see the volume has been pretty decent as well, 16 carries this game. And I know Jordan Mason did have a touchdown, but he's already had the bye week, meaning he's going to be on your team every week. And the schedule is not super difficult all the way to the playoffs. So trading away a player like Deebo Samuel to get someone like Aaron Jones, who has some pretty awesome matchups coming up, is a great move. But if you need a quarterback for playoffs, Brock Purdy could be your guy. We saw what he did this week against the Cardinals in a game where they absolutely did not need to pass. They start off with a free touchdown to Christian McCaffrey. The Cardinals offense really couldn't move the ball. We see the Cardinals have been tough on quarterbacks, mainly because they allow a lot of points to running backs. And then we look at the playoff schedule, because up to that point, it's really difficult. The Panthers, the Browns, and the bye week, as we talked about with Ricky Pearsall. But then we see Tennessee, the Colts, and Chicago. Amazing matchups. In some of these games, like the Colts, like the Bears, they may need to pass as well. This defense for the 49ers hasn't been too great this year. These will be amazing opportunities for Brock Purdy to show up and show out and get you some playoff wins, especially if you've been struggling at quarterback. But if you need a cheap running back, maybe target DeAndre Swift. One thing I'd mention in the trade negotiation is his difficult schedule. He plays the Steelers, the Eagles, Green Bay, Cleveland, really tough, Green Bay again, then San Francisco. He does have one of the tougher RB matchups. You want to keep that in mind. But the volume is there. He had 21 carries against the Vikings. He didn't have that many targets, but some weeks he does have so many targets like he did in week 10 against the Giants. Only one this week against the Vikings. And with Kyle Monangai out there, I know he did take a touchdown, but that keeps Swift fresh. That gives him the opportunity to have those more explosive plays. I really like what I've been seeing on the film with DeAndre Swift. We see 90 rushing yards. That will lead to touchdowns. That will lead to big games, big plays, explosive plays that can help win you your matchups in the playoffs. Again, if you are struggling at running back, you need somebody cheap, DeAndre Swift could be the perfect fill-in for your team. Now, a little bit more expensive option at running back, but also still a good buy low, is Jaylen Warren. He said he could have returned to this game with the ankle injury if it was closer. And thankfully, for me, as a Steelers fan, it was not that close at the end. But he is the guy for this team. Kenneth Gainwell ended up having the big game. This is a reason you can buy him low. But look at this schedule. Absolutely amazing, especially if you're trying to make playoffs. They play Chicago, Buffalo, 31st in the league against running backs, Baltimore, Miami. Then the playoffs, they do play Detroit and Cleveland. Those will be tougher games. I admit that. You may not be able to play them in some of those weeks. But if you're trying to make playoffs, perfect trade for a target. Really easy schedule. He gets the targets. He gets the receptions. He's clearly the number one back for this team. Even when Jaylen Warren went down, Caleb Johnson barely did anything. So Kenneth Gainwell, he did have a nice game, but they're going to need to rely on Jaylen Warren, especially with Aaron Rodgers. He may have a fractured wrist. These next couple weeks will be huge for Warren and will help get you to the playoffs. Another buy low. If you are in the toilet bowl trying to avoid last place punishment or heading towards playoffs, buy Jaylen Waddle. He's got a great schedule. He's facing the Saints. He faces the Jets, and the Jets are not this good. They lost Sauce Gardner. They lost Quentin Williams. So this is based on their year-long value. They are definitely a lot weaker now against wide receivers than they were. They gave Jared Jeudy a couple weeks ago his first big game of the season, if that tells you anything. They play the Steelers, who have been really struggling against wide receivers. Then they play the Bengals and the Buccaneers. Really great matchups here for Jaylen Waddle. He's someone that you may be able to buy cheap, coming off a down week against the Commanders, then a bye week for two reasons. Down week and bye week, perfect opportunity to buy low on Jaylen Waddle and get a player that's been pretty insane, pretty awesome, a really top 24, top 25 most of the season for your playoff roster. We talked a little bit about Sam LaPorta earlier, and another one of our trade away targets. Again, there's not too many in this video, but Jameson Williams is one of them. He's been really great these last few weeks. Touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. But look at the only 4 receptions. I don't know if that's really something I want to trust, especially in my playoff roster. He's had some big games. They did make a few changes here, but it really relies on the volume. And Sam LaPorta could return this week against the Rams. Do you want to trust him against the Rams in week 15? That just did an amazing job against Devante Adams, allowed only 1 catch. They did an amazing job against Puka Nacua, held him to one of his worst games of the season without injury. I don't know if I want to trust that in week 15. Then they play the Vikings in week 17, probably a game that the Lions will dominate and run all over. J.J. McCarthy looks extremely rough. This will be a run-first game for the Vikings, so you're really counting on one big play from Jameson Williams, and I don't know if I want to count on that in the playoffs. Now is a great time to try to trade him away, trade him to a team that is accepting of the risk, maybe the team that has Jared Goff as their quarterback, and try to get a player that is going to be more consistent and reliable for your playoff team. Really interesting buy low opportunity on Rashee Rice against Denver, because the thing to watch out for, I'll point out, in week 17, they played Denver again, and Pat Surtain could be back for this game. So do we want to trade for him? Do we want to trade him away? I think the answer could be either based on what you're looking for. And I'm not going to try to tell you guys how to run your team. I'm trying to bring data and advice to you so you can make the best decisions possible. That's one reason you want to hit the subscribe. And I think Rice, I'm just going to throw him out there. Could be a trade away, could be a trade for. Reasons to trade away: they play Denver in the championship. They have a couple tough games against the Chargers, but man, they looked awful this week. And Houston, who've done a pretty good job on defense. That's some pretty compelling reasons to trade him away. If you can get 2 really startable players or trade him away for like a Puka Nacua, who we talked about a little bit earlier, I think I would do that move. But he's also someone I would see, can you buy him low? Pointing out, hey, they play Denver again, I'm willing to take the risk. If you are a team that's trying to make playoffs, I think I would be trying to trade for him. You can see next week against Jacksonville, overall, they've been awful. The Colts, Dallas. Rashee Rice can certainly get you to playoffs. Will he help you win a championship? We'll see about that. Again, they're playing Denver. They play the Chargers in the playoffs. Some really tough matchups for these wide receivers, but trying to get you to playoffs, he absolutely can. I think will get you to playoffs. So base it on your risk tolerance, whether you're in playoffs, trying to make playoffs, because I think Rashee Rice could be a perfect trade partner based on what your team needs. All right, this is our last trade away of the video. We have so many trade fours, but I want to get these trade aways out of the way because they only apply to certain teams. But I would be trying to trade away Jauan Jennings. We saw in this game, Ricky Pearsall was back. We did have him as a trade away last week as well. One reason, again, you want to hit that like and subscribe is because he is losing some volume. Ricky Pearsall's back. Kittle is fully back. Purdy's back at quarterback. There's just too many options in this offense. Brandon Ayuk could return at some point as well. I know he's got a really easy playoff schedule. That's one reason I am trying to trade him away. Maybe you're trying to make playoffs. You're like, well, I can't afford the bye week. I can't afford these tough matchups, but you're already in playoffs. Take him off my hands. That would be the kind of negotiation that I would try to point out, try to get the best deal possible for Jauan Jennings, who is going to lose some target share to Pearsall, to maybe Ayuk, definitely losing to Kittle, losing to CMC as the season moves on. We're about halfway through the video, so it's time for our secret giveaway. Yes, I'm giving away one of these team Yetis. Now, I've got my favorite team, the Steelers, up, but whoever wins, you can customize it to your favorite team or get an unbranded Yeti. Maybe it's not something you could use and you want to give it away for Christmas. These things make amazing gifts. I actually have a Yeti just like this. It's not Steelers, but it's the same exact product, and I absolutely love it. So if you guys want to win this, all you have to do is like this video, hit the subscribe, and comment down below your best trading tip, maybe the best or worst trade you ever made, a trade question, or a start-sit question for week 12. So like, subscribe, and comment, and you are entered to win this Team Yeti. And thank you guys so much for helping me hit 4,000 subscribers. We will keep these giveaways going as this page continues to grow. Our next trade for target will be Amon-Ra St. Brown. He got a little bit cooked by the Eagles in week 11. We see here that he had 12 targets. That was his second most of the entire season and only 2 receptions. 12 targets, anything like that kind of volume is absolutely a player you want to trade for. It's unfortunate that he did have this down week, but the Eagles, they look really strong on defense. They're doing a great job, and the schedule is not too bad rest of the season. They play the Giants, they play Green Bay, Dallas, the Rams, Pittsburgh. Now, the championship looks rough. The 4 on Minnesota, they've done a great job against wide receivers, but keep in mind that he'll be facing Josh Metellus. He's actually one of the weakest corners in the entire league in terms of fantasy points allowed per route run. I actually point out in week 9, he played against Josh Metellus and had 18.7 fantasy points. While the schedule looks a little bit dodgy, the fantasy football championship looks a little bit rough, it's actually not as bad as it seems, and definitely a player that can help you win that championship. We've had a lot of cheap running backs in these videos, and RJ Harvey's no exception, a great trade for target, especially coming off a down week and heading into the bye. That is where rookies tend to break out. They have that bye week. They have that opportunity to grow and refresh some things they haven't had a chance to this entire season. It's a pretty late bye, but perfect timing for RJ Harvey because we know J.K. Dobbins is out for the season. They use a lot of Jaleel McLaughlin in this game, but this bye will be huge for RJ Harvey. I'm definitely buying. I am buying low, and even though he does have a little bit of a tougher schedule, no really easy games outside the Commanders, he's a player that will take over this backfield, an offense that does move the ball decently well, that does score points, and he's poised for a huge playoff breakout. So buy him cheap and see if that breakout comes. Don't rely on the breakout, but buy him cheap and see if that breakout can come to help you win the championship. We have to buy low on DeVonta Adams as well. Again, everybody else in this video, we still have plenty of players to come, our trade for targets. Look at what he did this week. 7 points, 1 touchdown, 1 catch. Let's look at the targets as well. He had 8 targets in this game, almost 30% target share. The Seahawks just did a great job, but I know they play them again in week 16. The Seahawks, they're going to try to be ready, but you know the Rams are going to make some adjustments as well. But 8 targets, 30% target share, that is the kind of volume that we need. So I'm not too concerned with the down week. Volume is king. Volume is what's going to carry us in the playoffs, especially for a player that can score multiple touchdowns or is averaging a touchdown per game for this entire season. DeVonta Adams is a great buy low and someone that can definitely help you make playoffs because there's no more bye weeks. Decent matchups, someone that can get you to playoffs, and once you're there, can help you win as well. Now, this one's for my teams who maybe need to take some risks. You match yourself up versus the playoff teams, you're like, honestly, even if I scrape into playoffs, there's no way that I win. Well, Odunze is a player that I'd risk it and trade for because you can hope for these huge weeks, the 31, the 18, the 20. If he gets on a hot streak, he could absolutely help you win a championship, but the schedule is extremely difficult. They face the Eagles, who have been kind of lights out on defense lately. They face Green Bay, they face Cleveland, they face Green Bay again, who again have been amazing against wide receivers. Rome has a tough schedule, but with this bad game against Minnesota, this is a buy low opportunity. So for me, I'm looking to buy low and take the risk on Rome if I'm a team whose roster just doesn't compare well to those in the playoffs, because this is the type of player that can string together a few good weeks in a row and could help you win a championship and put luck on your side. And in the same vein, I like McConkey. If you're a team that's trying to make playoffs, he's a tough player to hold on to because he does have a bye week. But other than that, if you have a good record or you're like, my roster, I'm going to make playoffs, but my roster just doesn't match up. Maybe we're dealing with injuries. Trade for McConkey this week heading into the bye because, again, he has a pretty tough schedule. They do get Dallas in the playoffs, but he's the type of player that can put together a 23, a 15, a 20-point week, another 20-point week, a 15-point week. He has the capability, and overall, if we look at the last 6-7 weeks in total, he's been overall very solid. And again, it's a tough schedule. He's got the bye week, so he may not be a player you can afford to hold if you're trying to make playoffs, but he's a player that if your roster just doesn't match up to those in the playoffs, that you can trade for and hope luck turns your way, hope luck helps you out because he's the type of player that does have that potential for some big weeks. But a player to buy cheap if you're already in playoffs is Garrett Wilson, because right now, just like Sam LaPorta we talked about earlier, he's on IR. He missed week 11, 12, 13, and 14, so he's eligible to return week 15, first round of playoffs. I don't know if I trust him there first week back, but he's someone, if he is good week 15, maybe he good week 16, week 17. I will note early in the season, 22, 24, 20, 19, until he got hurt, he was awesome. He was a league winner until he picked up this injury. He could do that again. The schedule is not too bad. Jacksonville has been easy against wide receivers overall. The Saints, the Patriots, it's not the hardest, not the easiest at the same time, but for a player you can get essentially for free that was dropping almost 20 points, over 20 points a game to start off the season, definitely a good buy low opportunity. Another player specifically for those of you who have already made playoffs or locked in is Omarian Hampton. He's supposed to come back week 13 against the Raiders. Now, Vidal got hurt in this game. They've got the bye week coming up. This is perfect timing for Omarian Hampton. Week 13 against the Raiders, the Eagles. The Chiefs are tough. They faced Dallas in the playoffs. And then Houston. It's not the easiest schedule, but we saw what he did before he got hurt. 25, 27, 13. Look at the receptions as well. 6, 5, 6. We don't know how this will affect the wide receivers. That is something to watch out for with McConkey, but it should open up the field a little bit. Waddle wasn't doing the best in the run game. He was doing okay here and there. In some games he was great. Some games it was pretty rough. Having Hampton back there is going to force the defense to come up. That could open things down the field. It's going to be interesting to see how this offense changes. That's why I'm trying to just buy pieces of it. Get Ladd, trade for Quentin Johnston potentially, trade for Oronde Gadsden potentially. This offense will change when Hampton comes back, but I definitely want Hampton as a piece of that offense. Again, heading into the bye, if someone has him on their team, they probably aren't locked in the playoffs. He was pretty bad to start the season. He had a couple good weeks, and then he's been in the IR spot the rest of the time. To try to get him for your team right now, get him a little bit lower than he should be because he isn't going to play week 12, and then you can lock him in your lineup for the rest of the season. We got 6 more players for you guys, and the next is Brian Robinson. This is one I just want to point out that he's looked pretty sharp for the 49ers when he's gotten his opportunities. In this game, he had 24 yards. How many carries did he have? He had 8 carries. It wasn't great in this game, but overall in the last couple games has been pretty sharp. Even scored a touchdown against the Giants and the Rams. If CMC was to get hurt, Brian Robinson Jr. would be a league winner. He's someone that I think if you can buy him really cheap right now, especially if they don't have CMC, try to get Brian Robinson Jr. Like if you've got a player on your team who's already starting, maybe it's a wide receiver that you're like, this guy's never going to crack my starting lineup. Maybe trade for Brian Robinson Jr. cheap with another bench player who could actually win you a league if CMC was to get hurt. Now I'm going to cheat a little bit here because this one is a 3-for-1. But speaking of CMC, I think we should trade for him. The reason I want to call out here, he's got a week 14 bye. And I play in a couple leagues where my teams are on the edge of playoffs. If I had CMC, I will lose. I will lose week 14 if I do not have CMC. Well, there's people in your league who can afford that. They will not make playoffs if they continue to have CMC on their roster because they can't afford for him to be out week 14. Look for those teams in your league. And it's not going to fit every league, but if there's people in your league with 49ers players like George Kittle, I'm going to include him in here. Drake May for the Patriots. Those week 14 buys, teams with those players that cannot afford to lose, they really should be trading them away because they will not make playoffs. They will have 0 chance to win a championship if they don't make playoffs. They should be willing to part with some of these players with a week 14 bye slightly cheaper than they really should be because, again, if they don't make a trade, they are done. They will not make playoffs. If they do make a trade, they actually have a chance. You're not going to give them full value. They have to trade, otherwise they're out. For cheap wide receiver needs, I do like Khalil Shakir. I'll point out that this week it was pretty down, obviously, and he didn't play that many snaps. He played one of the lowest snap percentages of the season at 53%. This is why you want the Walter Picks app. You can get it in my profile so you can see all that data. He did only have 1 catch. But overall, the season, he's been pretty consistent. And heading to this week, he was dealing with an injury. He's a player I think you can get for extremely cheap. And if you're in a deeper league or if you're in a league where you absolutely need some sort of wide receiver help, he's a player you can get for cheap that does have some upside. Earlier, we talked about trading away A.J. Brown, but DeVonta Smith is a great trade for target. Again, the schedule is absolutely insane. Dallas, Chicago, the Raiders, the Commanders. Again, tough matchup in week 17 against the Bills. We saw he did see some decent target share in this game, 5 targets. A.J. Brown got so many. He complains, he gets a lot of targets. He'll probably complain somewhere in here, and we'll have a low target game for DeVonta Smith. But overall, Detroit, they played a pretty amazing game. They played absolutely incredible. Their corners, they were supposed to be some easier matchups. They just did a great job. He's been pretty good throughout the season and can definitely have those spike weeks that help you win in the playoffs. So if you're a team that's trying to make playoffs, try to buy him low. If you're trying to win in the playoffs, I think he can help you as well. No bye weeks, not too many hard games rest of the season. A great player for every team. Woo! That was 30 trades. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to see more content like this and enter the giveaway with a comment, a trade question, a trade tip, a start sit question for week 12. Appreciate you guys so much. I'll continue to see you guys rest of the season with start sits, waivers, and different advice to help you guys win that championship.